While the political situation remains shaky on the military front, experts say Iraqi forces are beginning to perform better. They've been dealing with a Sunni militant onslaught, and about 900 of the roughly 2,400 people who died in June were security personnel. The Iraqi government has been bolstered by countries like Iran. One man who knows this well is Seyed Hossein Mousavian. He's a former high-ranking Iranian diplomat. CCTV's Asieh Namdar recently talked to him to get his insight.
We need a collective cooperation between regional powers and international powers.
That's former Iranian diplomat Seyed Hossein Mousavian speaking on the dangerous and fast-moving advance of Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant militants, who've seized large sections of northern and western Iraq in the past 3 weeks. The militants have threatened to march on to Baghdad. Prime Minister al-Maliki's government has managed to stop the militants short of the capital, but has not been able to take back cities like Mosul, overrun by militants June 10th and abandoned by thousands of Iraqi forces. Mousavian says the United States is partly to blame.
And the U.S. had a wrong assessment about the status of the Iraqi army before departing Iraq. And now U.S. spent billions of dollars to create a new army, training, but it failed. Today is a clear failure of Iraqi army. This is a failure of the U.S. policy.
So what about Iraq's neighbors? Syria on one side, Iran on the other. Iraqi officials say Syrian warplanes struck several border areas in Anbar province last week, and there are reports Iran has sent special forces and a unit of elite troops to Iraq. Mousavian would not confirm that, but says Iran is ready to help if Iraq asks for military assistance. The Obama administration has deployed military advisors, and there have been talk of U.S. and Iranian cooperation to defuse the crisis. Mousavian says Iran and the U.S. have worked together before and need to do it again.
You remember in 2001, after the deadly attack of September 11, the U.S. publicly announced the war on terror, officially invited Iran to cooperate with the U.S. on war on terror. And that time, 2001, Iranians and Americans, they were cooperating inside Afghanistan, Iranian generals with American generals, shoulder by shoulder, against al-Qaeda and Taliban. And they were able to remove, the Taliban, al-Qaeda only were removed because of Iran-US joint cooperation.
Mousavian also touched on the delicate nuclear negotiations between Iran and the world powers and whether the parties can reach a deal. He was a spokesman for Iran in its nuclear negotiations with the European Union in 2003 to 2005. Where do things stand? What's the status of nuclear negotiations? U.S. negotiator Wendy Sherman said, and I'm quoting here, "Our conversations have been tough, but constructive." Do you agree?
I agree. It's constructive because Iran is ready to cooperate, to accept every commitment under NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty.
So what's the holdup?
The problem, which Wendy Sherman said is tough, is about the world powers' demand beyond NPT.
Are you optimistic that by the July 20th deadline, there will be an agreement?
I would say 50-50 about July 20th. I would say 80-90% chance for final deal by November 2014.
That would make both sides happy.